Imagine getting up every day full of energy as if you were in your 20s again. What would that be like? What would it be worth to you? What is your health worth to you? Think about it. Your health isn't everything, but without it, everything else is nothing. And yet, too many of us are taking it for granted until something goes wrong. And no one wakes up hoping to be diagnosed with a disease or chronic illness. And yet, we've never been taught how to be proactive in our health through our school or public health. As a registered health coach and integrative health practitioner, I believe it's time this information is made available to everyone. Combining new knowledge around your health and the ability to do my functional medicine lab tests in the comfort of your own home will allow you to optimize your health for today and all your tomorrows. Don't wait for your wake-up call. Welcome back to another episode of the Don't Wait for Your Wake-Up Call podcast. My name is Melissa Deely, and I'm here today with Permelia Parham. Welcome to the show, Permelia.
Oh, Melissa, thank you so much. I'm just so excited to be here on your show today.
I'm very excited to have you, and I want to introduce you to the audience before we dive in. Permelia is a teacher and practitioner of energy healing. She has studied and taught this healing modality for over 20 years. She is a certified body code and emotion code practitioner, offering emotional healing sessions to release unprocessed negative emotions from the subconscious. Through her company, Vibrational Healing, Permelia provides body code healing sessions, individual consultations and workshops, teaching strategies on how to increase energy, expand self-awareness, and be empowered to make positive and successful life changes. These sessions can be done in person or via the phone or Zoom. Permelia has had great success working with adults, children, and animals by releasing unprocessed emotions for better health. And I absolutely love the work that you do. It's so in alignment with the work that I do. And this is something that is now really coming to the forefront, and people are becoming more aware of that it is needed as part of the healing process. For so long, we just looked at the physical symptoms and the healing the physical body, and we weren't addressing healing the emotional body. And so I love that this is your area of work and your expertise, because it is so, so important. But before we dive into all of that, I would just love you to share your story. What led you to this? Because with every practitioner I've ever met, there's always a background story.
Always a background story, yes. Well, about a little over 20 years ago, when I was just not in a happy place, and I am usually a happy person. You've known me for a few years, so I'm not very gloomy and doomy, and I just wasn't in a very happy place. And I thought, I was, in a relationship that wasn't great. Financially, I was okay. I had a lovely home, and my children were just young, starting to grow up, and that was all good, but I inside was not happy. So I knew I needed to do what I needed to do was to change me, or to look for a teacher, or to look for modalities. I didn't even know the name of what modalities were back then.
Right.
And very fortunately, I was introduced, I truly believe this happens. I was introduced to a woman who was teaching vibrational healing. Her company was called Vibrational Healings, and color touch therapy, which I shortened it just to vibrational healing. And she was the first person that I met who actually gave me the language that I'd always felt. I'd always felt vibration. I'd always known maybe I'd been here before on this earth, in this earth plane. And she was the one who taught me about past lifetime energy and realigning belief energy and all about vibration. So I ended up studying under her for 8 years, and had no clue at the time that it was going to turn into a company. She did, though. She predicted it. So I was living in Alberta at the time, and then moved, I call it back to Vancouver Island, because I actually grew up here. And so when I was leaving, and I'm like, I'm going to so miss coming to your sessions. And she's like, you're going to do something. I went, excuse me, I'm going to what? But because I was so much more happy with myself and cheerful and joyful within, that came out. So when I was working at a resort when I first moved back to Vancouver Island, and my coworkers one night, they were like, "What's up with you?" Like, this happened with one of our customers, and you just calmed them all down. And one of our staff got all upset about something, and I went, "Well, I do an energy balance before I come to work, and I always work evenings because I worked in the dining room." And so they're like, "You do a what?" And so really, literally, that's what happened. Just by talking to my coworkers at the time, they wanted to learn more. And I was like, "Oh, well, I guess this prediction is coming true." And I went back to Alberta for a vacation and met with my teacher and went, "Okay, what you said is happening. My coworkers want to know how to do all of this." And I still remember this. She went to her credenza and she pulled out all these papers, photocopied them, gave them to me and said, "There, now you've got 4 sessions. You can start." So literally started to teach out of my dining room, chakra balancing, realigning limiting beliefs, healing past lifetime energy. And then as that progressed, and I left the resort, started the company Vibrational Healing, and then got introduced to the emotion code and the body code. So that was where how that worked, and I just love the work that I do. It's I know you do similar work with the unconscious, and it's so important. You're right. We were never taught we were only taught that the conscious brain
Yes.
was running the show, right? And now that we know more about the unconscious and more this information is coming to sort of mainstream society, we realize that it's, the unconscious is really 90 to 95% of what's going on with us.
Absolutely. And there was so many nuggets that you said there. So I want to come back to a few of them. First of all, you mentioned that you weren't happy on the inside. Mm-hmm. And I just want to reiterate that point is that happiness truly does start on the inside. And sometimes we have to do the work to get there, as you did. However, very often people will think that, oh, if I have this, I'll be happy. Or when I do this, I will be happy. And it's external based. And that simply isn't true. Happiness must come from the inside. And so for the listeners, if you aren't feeling happy on your inside and you know that in your core, start to get curious as to how you can shift that and why you may not be happy on the inside and what's holding you back from happiness, because happiness truly is a choice. Although sometimes we need to do a little bit of work in order to have that choice be easier to wake up and choose to be happy each and every day. And so Absolutely. I think that's a really important point that you mentioned, that it doesn't come from what we have. It comes from who we are.
Absolutely. Yeah. And because I mentioned a little bit, I had a lovely home. I was financially secure. Yes. I had on the outside people looking in what I thought, oh, well, she's got it made. We had lovely trips. We went lots of places traveling, but I was unhappy from the inside. And I knew enough. I had not really studied, but I'd read a lot to know that if I was going to be happy, it wasn't, as you mentioned, it wasn't the external things that were making me happy, because obviously they weren't. Right. So I had to look at what was going on inside me. Right. And by doing that, really helped shift a lot that was happening, and my whole outlook on life and my positive vibrations that I learned about the law of attraction. The vibrations you give out, the vibration you get back, the thoughts you think. Yes. So make sure the thoughts that you are thinking, they can come true. So make sure you're picking those good ones. Yeah. Exactly.
And reframing the negative ones, releasing them, saying cancel, cancel, cancel. And so much of the dialogue we have in our brain is in fact negative. And pulling us down instead of lifting us up. And it is getting to understand, okay, what is that internal program I'm running unconsciously, right? That is triggering all of that. And it's very often being run because the unconscious mind is keeping us safe and in our comfort zone. And it's patterning that we learned as a very young child, which may have served us then, but our inner 5-year-old is not qualified to run our adult life. And that's where these problems can arise. And I will just add, sometimes there's physical components getting in the way. For instance, if our gut's unhappy, our body can't make our neurotransmitters, serotonin and dopamine, which are our feel-good and our motivation neurotransmitters. And that can have an impact. If we're nutritionally deplete, we also can struggle to feel happy. So there are physical factors.
Absolutely.
Very often.
I love what you said earlier about being curious. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that I've always been. I say now, what you got in trouble for as a child is really your gift. So I was always getting in trouble for asking questions. I just think, my parents didn't know how to answer me. Yes. And also getting into trouble for being too sensitive. I was always too sensitive. Mm-hmm. I was like, well, now I need to be sensitive for my clients.
Yes.
And being curious and asking questions
yes.
Has got me to where I am now in my career and in my life. So being curious,
yes.
always be curious about what's going on. And especially if if physically something's not right with your body, we're the only ones who know exactly what's right and wrong with our bodies, right? Because we're in them.
In our bodies all our life, and we know when things are right and when things aren't right. Absolutely. Yes. Very, very good point. The other thing that you mentioned was you went back to Alberta and you met up with your mentor, and then she said, here's 4 lessons. So the 8 years of study you had done previously, that was all the training that you needed to become a coach and mentor this. You just didn't realize that was your path yet. I just wanted to understand that correctly. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. And part of the study that we did with my teacher, I have my certificate
right.
of Reiki 1, which I keep forgetting that I actually have the Reiki 1 certification because we did all of that in the classroom. And right. But again, she taught me the language so that I could use the language about how I was now showing up in the world. And as I mentioned, because I was internally really happy and grateful and have always had a gratitude journal and believe in gratitude because it's a very high vibrational emotion.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so that came out. That's what my coworkers saw. And they wanted some of it. And so I was feel very blessed to have had my teacher in my life for those years. And also the fact that she was, and I had asked her, okay, so there's some cost for me to set up some workshops like that. Do we need a contract? This is your intellectual property. Do we, I'll send you a percentage. And she went, Permelia, I just need people like you out there telling other people how to be happier and live a more fulfilled life. So I feel so blessed that she gave me the gift of all of her learnings that she had learned really herself just from her own life. Yeah.
And that's beautiful. And I find that over and over again. And it's the purpose of this podcast, is to get this information out so that people can come across it when the time is right for them and they're ready for it and be able to take the next steps on their healing journey. It's none of this holistic side of health is advertised on television or taught through our education system. And so people have to, unfortunately, go searching for it. Mm-hmm. And usually they do that when they're kind of fed up with mainstream medical not giving them the answers they're looking for, and they know there must be something more. And so that's absolutely beautiful that her attitude is, I just want more people to know.
She just wanted to spread the word. And most of her students, isn't doing the work anymore because she's probably in her 90s now. Not that you couldn't still do the work in your 90s, but yes. Most of her students have gone on to be, teachers. I know I've kept in touch with a few of them and a few people that we were all in the same classroom together. And absolutely. So her legacy is continuing.
And that's beautiful. And you slowly through those first coworkers expressing interest in what you were doing. And why not? Because people are attracted to happiness. They want a little piece of that. And especially if they know that they're not happy inside themselves, like, how do I get there? And so that's literally just how you built your business, is by showing up, having done the work yourself, exuberating happiness, which I know you absolutely do, and attracting people in and teaching them.
And to me, that's my purpose. That's what I'm here on this earth for. Didn't know that, at first. As we have different kinds of careers and do different kinds of work. But I believe I always have that inner ability to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, I remember her telling me that even as a baby, people would stop the baby carriage and look at me because I had this little round face
And a big smile.
Yeah. So it was part of who I was. But on our life journey, we do run into different situations that can make us unhappy, like where I was over 20 years ago. And so that I needed to find another way. And this is how it evolved. It evolved to now for me to do the serving, which is exactly what I offer every day on my yoga mat when I'm doing my yoga meditation. Is I'm here to serve. Who would you like me to? Where would you like me to go? What would you like me to do? What would you like me to say? And to whom? So.
And that's beautiful. And you had to go through that experience yourself in order to be able to find your true purpose. And in finding your true purpose, you also found happiness. And I think that's true for many people as well. That
absolutely,
when
and you have to do your own work.
Yes.
It's not going to show up unless you put in some of the work. And as you can see by my bookcase, I have a lot of books that I read. I read a lot, and they're all on inspiration, how to be inspirational, how to lead for other people now that I'm in a leading position. But really, that was all the inner work that I was doing when I was studying under my teacher as well, learning how I can make a difference in the world, as well as not just for myself, but for others.
I love that. And so let's talk a little bit more about body code and dive into that modality. I would love for you to explain it. I haven't had anyone on the podcast before talking about this, because of course I want you to. And so please share more so people understand what it is and how you work with them.
All right. Thank you so much. So the body code, the emotion code is like the first level, and then the body code is the next level. So the emotion code is looking at emotions that could be trapped in the subconscious. The process that we use, the protocol, was created by Dr. Bradley Nelson. Mm-hmm. So if anybody wants to know more, they can check him out, Dr. Bradley Nelson. He was a chiropractor for many years. And very spiritual man, very connected to source energy. And he'd say to his wife, my patients come and see me and I adjust them and they go away and then they keep coming back. So he had the inspiration that it was more than just physical. It was right. Emotional.
Right.
And so he created this chart of 60 trapped emotions. And he's such a brilliant man, because he knew he wanted to train other practitioners. There's practitioners like myself all over the world. And he knew he wanted to train other people how to do it. So he took this chart of 60 trapped emotions and he put it in 2 columns and 6 rows. So each one of those blocks has 5 trapped emotions. So you don't have to go, when you're trying to find what trapped emotion you need to release, you don't have to go through all 60 all the time.
Right, that would take a long time.
It would take a long time. The sessions would be more than just an hour.
Yes.
So you just muscle test and ask, is it column A? Is it column B? Is it an even row? Is it an odd row? And then whatever the yes is that you get, that block has got 5. And so it's easy to check to see which one. My intuition usually pops in anyway. Now that I've been doing this for a number of years, right. My intuition is, I call the intuition a muscle. So the more you use it, the more you have it.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, oftentimes I know my intuition just goes to the trapped emotion that needs
Right.
to be released. So that's the emotion code level, which you get certified by Dr. Bradley Nelson. It's an online course. And then the next level is the body code, which I just think is so cool because it's looking at everything that's going on in the body, all the systems, all the organs, all the glands, even the chakras, the meridians, our electromagnetic field, like so many things that could be happening. So the way the sessions go is that my client will identify something what they want to work on. So it could be physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, whatever they want to work on. So then we connect. It's a group. It's a group process. So it's the client, me, and the client's subconscious.
Right.
And so the subconscious will lead us where we need to go. With permission, I ask my client if I can connect to their subconscious, and then their subconscious leads us where we need to go in the body code program, as well as the trapped emotions that need to be released. Now, because of my previous energy work, when I was introduced to this, it just made perfect sense because there's 3 components to the session. Number 1, we ask to be connected to the client's subconscious. Now, as you know, our unconscious or subconscious knows everything that's going on with us. It's true to who we are. Then to find out what in the program needs to be released or what trapped emotion needs to be released off that chart, we muscle test. So muscles, again, our muscles are very, very true to who we are. They're not going to lie. So people have probably seen the strong arm test or the sway test. I actually see people doing that in the grocery store. You don't want to buy what's on that shelf. Right. Your body's telling you no.
Yes. Don't override
it. That's right.
That's the other thing. I was just going to say the other thing that I've learned through this process is that when we do tap in and ask our unconscious mind, it's very important we follow through on the answers that are given versus overriding it consciously and doing something different. Because when we override and do something different, we break rapport with our unconscious mind. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. You need to let your unconscious, subconscious mind lead you. Yes. And that's what we do in the session. Yes. And then to release the trapped emotion. Now, this is what's really cool is we have a magnet. You can use any kind of magnet at all. I have a little magnet bracelet I use. And because my client has given me permission to connect with them, whether it's over Zoom or in person or over the phone. So I'm like their proxy. They've given me permission. So I'm doing the work. And so I just take my little magnet, and I run it over my governing meridian because I'm doing the work as a proxy for the client. Now, what the magnetic quality of the magnet, you can use any magnet, like a fridge magnet, doesn't matter. The magnetic quality connects to the electromagnetic field, or our aura, which is, again, true to who we are. And it's stronger than the trapped emotion. So it releases the trapped emotion. That's so powerful and so beautiful and so important, because I just want to come back to how societally we are taught to stuff down our emotions. And we have been ever since we were a young child. Mm-hmm. You know, boys don't cry, be a big girl, don't bring your troubles to school, don't bring your troubles to work, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's just become a habit to squash our emotions and not feel them. And when we don't want to feel them, sometimes we go for a tub of ice cream or something else to make us feel good in the moment. But we know after we've done that, it never feels good. We have a tummy ache, the emotion comes back, and we can sometimes end up camping in it, literally. Yes. And this is such a powerful way to release all of that, because once it's released, it's gone for good, right? Because you're going to that grid in your chart, like you're literally pulling the root, and then that emotion's gone for good, the stuck emotion. It doesn't mean you won't ever feel an emotion again. We want you to feel your emotions. They're part of the natural process and they're a chemical reaction in the body, but all of the trapped emotions are gone for good. Correct? Well, I use the analogy of an onion. Okay. Because my sessions are around 45 minutes to an hour. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we'll release up to 20 trapped emotions. Think of a ball of negative energy. And so one of my teachings with my teacher when I was training with her
was be very careful about your physical body and your energy body. We don't want them to be too out of alignment. We want them actually to be in alignment.
Absolutely.
Well, if you're going to release 20 balls of negative energy in 45 minutes, your physical body and your energy body is going to be out of alignment. And that is part of the process.
Right.
So I never rush anything. Because of my past training as well, I brought it to this training, is I always ask the body of my client, are you ready to release more? And if they say no, if I get a no, then we don't do any more, depending on how long. It could be 30 minutes, 45 minutes, could be an hour, could be an hour and a half sometimes. But, I'm always very cautious about connecting with my client's physical body. Now, that's why I use the analogy of an onion, because oftentimes there are more trapped emotions, and it could be the same emotion, but you've got to release those surface ones to get down to what really, really needs to be released. Yeah. So sometimes it will take more than one session, obviously, to clear them. And I have a couple of clients I have some packages. So I have a couple of clients, they sign up for my 5 package sessions, and they come back once a month for their maintenance, they call it.
Right. Yes. Yes. And how powerful, though, that a lifetime of stuffed down emotions can actually be released very quickly, comparatively, even if it takes a couple of sessions, when we work with the unconscious mind.
Absolutely.
And that can never happen when we're working with the conscious mind. And as you said earlier, the unconscious mind is 90 to 95% of our mind, and therefore has access to so many more resources and is so much more powerful than our conscious mind. And yet we haven't been taught the tools through our education system to work with the unconscious mind, which is why someone needs a practitioner like yourself with your emotional code and your body code to do this work.
Absolutely. And the other analogy I use is an iceberg. So what's above the water is what's in your conscious mind, and what's below the water is in your subconscious. Well, we all know what's way below the water on icebergs is much, much larger. So I like to use that as a picture. I think in pictures too. So I like to use that as a picture for people. And just to let people know as well, your audience, there's different types of trapped emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So there can be preconception trapped emotions. There's one called prenatal, which means something was going on with your mother when she was pregnant with you, and you got the trapped emotion. I never think that's fair, but that's one of the ones.
What happens? Yes.
It happens. And you can absorb trapped emotions from people. You can, there's one called where you inherit them. You can actually inherit them going back many generations.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about how we're raised, my grandfather fought at Vimy Ridge in the First World War. He never mentioned that. He never talked about that. I had to read the book, Vimy Ridge by Pierre Burton, to understand, or Vimy, I think it was called, to understand what he went through. Because I was interested. You know, my father also was in the Second World War and what they call the Korean conflict. He went there twice. And my parents and my grandparents grew up through the Depression. So there was a lot that as children of those generations, we have those emotions. Those emotions got passed on to us. And so we want to be able to find them and release them. There's another one called the heart wall. So our unconscious will put up an invisible wall to really protect our heart. But if you get those emotions stuck in that heart wall, then you can have all sorts of issues with relationships, and all different kinds of relationships, not just romantic ones, and also success in life. It's really important to find, I believe, of course, as a body code practitioner, that you find what those emotions are and release them and find out, well, where did that come from? Is that one that I have had since birth, or did I inherit that, or did I absorb it from somebody? So it's a very, very interesting modality.
It's absolutely beautiful. And as you said earlier, I do very similar work. We get the same results. We're looking for the same results in, different modalities. And that's the point of you showing up and living your purpose and me showing up and living my purpose, and us having this conversation is to let people know that there's more than one way to heal. And as you said earlier, to get curious. Where am I at in my life? Am I living my life to the fullest? Am I happy? And if I'm not, what can I do about that? And there's so many options today that weren't available 20 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. We didn't have Zoom.
Oh, yes. Well, that too. It would have been all in person.
It would have been all in person. Yes.
The understanding of the power of our unconscious mind has come so far in that time period. And as a result, these, modalities have been developed. How long ago was emotion code and body code developed? I know for timeline therapy that I use, that was really started in the 1990s or late 80s.
Well, Dr. Bradley Nelson wrote his first book. It was published in 2007.
Ah, okay.
So he was definitely doing it before he wrote that book. So I would say, the early 2000s.
Right.
And still a lot of people don't know about the emotion code or about the body code. And he's got some amazing, you can just, if you Google him and pop on his website, and you can get his newsletter, weekly in your inbox. And very interesting. His books, he actually, in his books that he's written, he teaches you as the person reading the book how to muscle test and how to release your own trapped emotions. So oftentimes I found, even for myself, there's a young man that I like to hire him to help me with my emotions, because even though I can release my own, sometimes it's more effective when you have somebody else doing the releasing.
It absolutely is, because even with the power of our unconscious mind, it's hard to see your own stuff.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. You need that person working with you from the outside in order to draw it out. And so, yes, I fully understand that. And I really love that all of this is coming into being more mainstream now, and people are looking for this. And so having more conversations around it is so important, because in my learning, I've really come to understand the power of healing all four bodies. We have four bodies, and I didn't know that when I was back in the corporate world. I just thought I had a physical body, right? And then as I got into health and wellness and started learning more about this, realizing we do have an emotional body, a mental body, and a spiritual body. And by the time we have symptoms of anything in our physical body, they've already moved through the other three bodies.
Yes.
So if we want lasting healing and lasting health, which who wouldn't? We have, one time in this body on earth, right? We want to live our longest life possible. We need to address it in the physical body, and then ensure we're addressing it in the emotional body, in the mental body, in the spiritual body, so that whatever it is that's showing up doesn't come back.
Exactly. And I think in some of your publications that you've done, you split the word and you call it dis-ease, and that makes way more sense to me than just disease, because we've grown up knowing the word disease. But when you have dis-ease, and you can actually mentally hear and think about having dis-ease in your body. So when you have that dis-ease, of course it could, over a period of time, depending if you don't do anything about it, create a very horrible disease that then you may have to have surgery or whatever. We won't go into all the different kinds there could possibly be. But something just recently that I have sort of got an aha moment over was the new information that's been out. And you may know it might not be that new, but I've just come across it recently, is how our gut health correlates to our mental health and our brain health.
Yes,
now,
absolutely.
With and I'm going to use the word pandemic of Alzheimer's and dementia that's going on in our society right now, that makes perfect sense to me. But I don't ever remember except listening to your podcast and reading your newsletter, talking about gut health only from a physical point of view. Okay, our gut should be should be healthy because we want to be healthy physically. I
Right.
hadn't ever heard of the correlation to the brain health, and that makes perfect sense to me.
Yes, and it is a very powerful connection through our vagus nerve. And when I first started learning this about 7 years ago, my aha was we have more neurons lining our gut system than we actually do in our brain.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, is the body's ability to make serotonin and dopamine, which are our motivation and our feel-good neurotransmitters. Well, 90% of serotonin is made in the gut.
Yeah.
So if our gut isn't healthy, it can't produce enough serotonin for us to feel happy.
Exactly.
There is a huge correlation there. And that's where, this work that you do is so important. And just coming back to those trapped emotions, that what I tell people, and this is, it's proven, is that those trapped emotions sitting in our body year after year, decade after decade, become toxic. And so it further increases the toxic load on our body on top of the chemical toxins and the heavy metal toxins, et cetera, creating inflammation and then triggering the switch to turn on the genes to a dis-ease that we are genetically predisposed to.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to show, this isn't my fancy chart, but this is the emotion code chart.
Yes.
So these are the 2 columns and the 6 rows. But as you can see, Dr. Bradley Nelson has actually assigned organs to the rows.
Yes.
So, and then the last row is glands. So what that means is you could have, if those emotions are not released, they're going to compromise those organs.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And so it's really fascinating, all of the work that's coming to the forefront in this area from a myriad of different sources.
I find it very exciting. I'm very excited that people get to learn. I mean, you and I are in the health realm, so we are always studying and we're always reading. But for sort of mainstream society who doesn't know, wouldn't even know where to go look for some of this material, it's making, I get very excited when I know that more and more of this information is available for people.
And one of the things along those lines of the organs is look at type 2 diabetes. It's near epidemic. It used to be adult onset diabetes. Now it's been renamed type 2 diabetes because so many children are getting diagnosed with it. And part of the cause of that, of course, is the sugar in everything and the processed food. However, another piece of it is the emotions that are stuffed down and being triggered by bitterness. Stuffed down bitterness and having no joy in life. And that then manifests into type 2 diabetes.
Absolutely. So the row 2 that's got the spleen in the stomach. So things like helplessness. So if as a child, if you're feeling helpless, hopeless, you feel how you're out of lack of control. These are some of the emotions I'm just reading. If you have low self-esteem, that can impact your spleen and your stomach. If you're worried, if you're anxious, everybody seems to be anxious these days.
Right.
So that can have an impact, and that will definitely have an impact on your health. Your physical health.
Exactly. So I absolutely love all of this knowledge, all of the work that you're doing, because it is comparatively, as I said, a very short amount of time for someone to actually release all of this and move into that place of where they're in a position to be able to choose to be happy. And when we're happy, then we are able to find our purpose and serve from that place of high vibration and be able to help others. And so it's just beautiful work that you do. And thank you so much for doing it. Now, I know you're very, very passionate about this work, but I'd also love to hear what else in your life are you passionate about?
Well, I live on Vancouver Island. For anybody who knows where that is, it's on the west coast of Canada. We live in a small city called Parksville, so it's about halfway up the island. We're I'm a 20-minute walk from the beach, so I love doing my beach walks. And we have just kind of through the neighborhood, there's a like a path. So depending on how much time I have, usually on the weekends, I'll do my hour beach walk, but I have, like 20 minutes to fit in a walk during the day, or at the end of the day, a 40-minute walk. Then I can choose where I want to go, through the forest, or just on the walking path. So that is one of my big things that I love to do. Just going to the beach in the summertime, or even when it's still like fall this time. My husband and we'll pack a picnic lunch or picnic dinner, and we'll go to the beach and sit at the beach and just look at that beautiful water, because that is very calming and very restorative. I'm a reader. I really, really read a lot, a lot and a lot. And other than that, I probably don't have any extra things that I do. I have 3 children who are all grown, and 2 of my children, well, all 3 of them don't live near me. My youngest daughter does live in Vancouver, so she's not too far away. The other 2, my son lives in Edmonton, my daughter's down in Montreal. So we keep in touch by Zoom and, phone calls and texting and Instagram. So that's always good to keep in touch with them. I have a sister who lives here near me, so we get together where there was just the 2 of us in our family, and our parents had passed away. So we're our family.
Yep.
So we see each other a lot. So yeah.
So you have a very full life with family and, looking after yourself with your self-care. I love the idea of walking on the beach or through the forest, because there's so much healing power in being in nature and just getting out and breathing that fresh air. And in your case, the salt air from the ocean, and being able to do that for yourself to continue to look after your own physical health, emotional health, mental health, so that you can show up and serve others. So absolutely, absolutely beautiful. And what advice do you have to offer listeners as we start to move towards wrapping up the show?
Well, I think I'll just say again what I said a bit earlier. Be curious. If you're not feeling something is right in your body physically, do some research. Find out why. If emotionally or mentally you're not feeling 100% and you're not feeling happy, do some research. Find out what's happening, what's going on. It could be something that's physical, that's affecting your mental and emotional health. That would always be good to know, and find out what that would be. Just ask questions. Always ask questions. Always be curious about why is this happening, or where did this come from? Many of my questions, I guess, to my parents when they couldn't answer me was, okay, I'm feeling like this. So why am I feeling like this? Or why did this happen? So yeah, you want to be always wondering. Wonder, I think, is amazing. I think that takes us into a whole nother realm of just being in the aura of wonder.
Yes.
That certainly makes me happy when I see something that just touches my heart. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
And remember that childlike wonderment, which also is such a great feeling. And we don't often allow ourselves to go back there as adults. However, it can be very, very beneficial in coming to your own answers about what's going on inside of you and in your own life. And I love the idea of being curious. And that definitely led me to my path as well, because I kept asking my doctor, but why? Why do I have these symptoms? Don't just give me another drug. I want to know why I have them, because then if I know why, I can do something about it to make them go away. And when I couldn't get those answers, that's when I kept looking for them and found holistic health. And that's where I started finding my answers. And so what I just want to add to that about being curious and wonderment is know that you have the right to seek more information, get second opinions. If you're being told one thing and it doesn't sit right with you and it doesn't feel right, keep looking for what does sit with you and what feels right. So
absolutely. And I think we're of that generation where we will second guess, or we'll ask well, when we're not feeling that something isn't right with us, whether it's something the doctor is saying that we should do. I have my doctor telling me all the time I should take this medication for whatever reason. And I'm like, no, not happening, because I'm not going to take it because I don't want the side effects. But that was me being very, very strong in my opinion. People need to do what you're saying. They need to be curious and they need to ask the questions, because you need to be strong in your opinion about your own body. So that's what definitely, I think that's for sure very important.
And it's funny that we're even having this conversation, because I saw a meme yesterday of somebody sitting in a doctor's office reading a sign on the wall in the doctor's office that says, "Warning, patient will be charged extra for annoying the doctor with any self-diagnosis gotten off the internet," which is funny. However, I believe every relationship with a practitioner is a partnership. And because you've lived in your body your entire life, you know when something is off, and you may have already figured out what's going on. And so the doctor should be open to you saying what's going on, as opposed to them just telling you.
Yeah, they've been schooled for many years to tell us what we need to do, rather than it being a collaborative relationship.
Exactly.
And so that's what I think is really important. So I know, other physicians like naturopathic doctors are more inclined to have a collaborative relationship with you. And not to say that some of, mainstream medical doctors won't either. Some of the ones that are very forward thinking will.
Yes.
That hasn't personally been my experience. So I just don't bother asking any more questions of them.
Right.
Because I know what the answer will be, and I don't like the answer.
And I love that you say strong and what's true to yourself, and say, no, I'm not taking this drug that you think that I should be on, et cetera, et cetera.
And I think sometimes too, what happens, I mean, giving the doctors a little bit of, they're only schooled a certain way.
Exactly.
And their information around medication, I don't, is very limited, very, very limited. I had a cousin who was a pharmacist. She knew way more about medication than the medical doctors did. And we need to, again, be curious about, well, what are the side effects of this particular medication, and how could that impact my other physical health? So I'm trying to release this pain, let's say.
Right.
I'm trying to find out why I have this pain in my hip or my knee or whatever, wherever it might be. But if you're just going to ask me to take Tylenol, or a medication that I can do research and find out is going to release the lining of or damage the lining of my stomach, that is not something that I want to do. So yeah, you have to be your own little, sometimes your own little MD.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's where second opinions can be very, very helpful. Is sure, get one opinion and then see what someone else has to say, and ask, is there another way? Which is all coming back to getting curious.
Yeah. Ask those questions.
Exactly. So, and to your point, medical doctors are fabulous people. They go into their industry in order to help people. However, the system has them in a box within which they can operate. And the biggest problem is they only get, 7 to 15 minutes with you, which is a very short amount of time for them to be able to provide that extra level of care. Whereas naturopathic doctors and other holistic healers give you an hour. And that's a huge difference, where they can learn so much more about you in order to be able to work with you to get to the root cause.
And yes, exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. My experience is with holistic practitioners and in the naturopathic world is they get to the root cause. Yes. Like, why do you have that anxiety? Why are you not sleeping? Why do you have that pain? So it's not just prescribing something to release it momentarily, but really finding out why. Why is that happening in your body physically?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they can do that because they have that extra time. That's what it comes down to. So I always love to ask my guests, what does don't wait for your wake up call mean to you?
Oh, I love that question. Uh, to me, it means be aware. Be aware of what's going on in my body. Be aware of what's going on in my emotions. Be aware of what's going on mentally for me. So I don't want to wake up to my wake up call, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental or spiritual. I don't want a wake up call to be telling me there's something wrong with me.
Right.
So I'm going to do the preventative, as much preventative systems, modalities, whatever I can do to put in my life so that I'm not, the wake up call isn't waking me up.
It's beautiful. And we absolutely can do that. And there's so many modalities now available to us. So how can someone get hold of you if they would like to work with you?
So my company is vibrationalhealing.ca. I have a website, and my email is Permelia at vibrationalhealing.ca, and just contact me, and we can set up a time if you'd like to know a little bit more about the emotion code and the body code. I'm happy to do a 15 to 20 minute information session just to explain it in more detail so that you really understand what's happening in the session and how we go about doing that. I always like to do that for people. So that's something definitely that I offer to your audience. And again, they can book that with my through my email address. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a beautiful offer. I really appreciate it. And is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience? Any last tips or words of advice as we round out this wonderful interview?
Well, I just want to say thank you again, Melissa. I know you and I've known each other for a few years now, and we always I admire you and what you are doing, and I know you always tell me how much you appreciate what I am doing. So I just say, let's heal the world. Let's do what we can do to support people that are in pain, regardless of what that might look like, and let's make the world a better place by making people healthy.
I love that. It's definitely my mission, and I know it's yours. And so I'm excited to continue on this path. And to the audience, if you know someone that needs to hear this interview with Permelia today, please share it with them so that they know there's options in their healing journey. And thank you as always for tuning in to the Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call podcast. And thank you for being my guest today, Permelia. I love your energy. I do love the work that you do, and for just bringing your beautiful, big, bright smile and oodles and oodles of happiness to the show. So thank you again for your time. Are you a practitioner or a coach listening to this? If so, I would love to ask you, do you use hypnotherapy in your practice working with clients? And if not, would you like to? The power of hypnotherapy is limitless. And so often we experience our clients struggling to reach their goals. It's because they're coming up against their own brick walls and getting stuck. But you can help them through the power of hypnosis break through all of that, working with their unconscious mind to put the suggestions in, to have them taking the action to achieve the results that they want. They are thrilled with your coaching techniques. They're getting the results they want. You feel amazing because you are helping your client get the results they want. It's a win-win. And another win is that it's an added revenue stream for you in your business. So if you like the feel of helping your clients get the results they want, if you like the sound of that, then definitely reach out, Melissa at yourguidedhealthjourney.com, or click the Linktree link below for my Unlimited Power of Hypnosis class to learn more. It's a weekend designation program that I teach, valid in 42 countries. You write an exam after taking the experiential course, and you can be admitted to the American Board of Hypnotherapy and start using hypnotherapy one-to-one with your clients and have them achieving the results they want.